He was simply humiliated and beaten by the heroes of this world without knowing what he had done wrong. In this world, there were several demon kings, and all of them were sent to different places to build a tower and defeat the heroes. But Deus, who was our protagonist, was a prodigy. He graduated from the academy as the top student of the year, and everyone thought he would swear loyalty to the Demon King's guide. However, he thought differently. He no longer believed in the guide, and because of that, he ended up losing to that damned hero. This time, he intends to do everything differently. Even using dirty tricks doesn't matter. He will leave no opening for his failure and, this time, plan his revenge against those bastards who did this to him. The story begins in a reality that challenged understanding and often created denial, a place where anyone who witnessed it simply refused to accept the truth. The proud black flames could not even scratch the heroes, and the hero's blade had pierced the enemy's scales and reached his heart. The one who suffered that attack could not understand how the long-haired, black-haired man, who believed he was superior to everyone, had managed to do it. This man had entered the Demon King Academy as the best of his class and had graduated as the class speaker. In that world, the fundamental theory established by the first demon emperor who built the Demon Kingdom was known as the Demon King Standard. The one who had just attacked with all his strength had studied this theory more deeply than anyone else, following it religiously exactly as it was written. Because of this, he built a tower, kidnapped princesses, and took care of the heroes who came to rescue them. For a demon king, the anger and sadness of others were considered a supreme feast, so killing heroes too early would be a waste. The standard taught demon kings to fatten the heroes before devouring them because a stronger hero made the meal more flavorful. That individual followed the Demon King standard more faithfully than anyone, and world domination had only been a matter of time. He had absorbed the sadness and rage of countless beings, including the heroes, and eventually he transformed into the strongest demon king ever known. That was why he wanted to understand why he was lying there in the dirt. He questioned how that hero had defeated him, while the hero, with a psychopathic expression, believed that demons were fools. The hero explained that all the demons had created that situation themselves, yet they always seemed shocked by the outcome. The Demon King wanted to understand what nonsense he was hearing. The hero insisted that it was not nonsense. The demons had kidnapped the most famous princess just to send a message, as if they wanted to prove that the Demon King was active and needed to be stopped. The hero believed the Demon King was an idiot and should have simply kidnapped the human king, but instead, he had thrown his own kingdom into chaos. The Demon King acknowledged that if he had kidnapped the king, humans hungry for the throne would have started a civil war, turning their anger away from the Demon King. In the end, he would not have grown as much as a Demon King, and he would have violated the teachings of the standard. The hero mocked the Demon King in every possible way, pointing out that the Demon King sent monsters to villages only to help heroes train and become stronger. The hero felt grateful for this. About the tower, the hero believed it was even more convenient, since the first floor was always full of weak monsters and was perfect for leveling up according to the hero's current abilities. But the Demon King had designed it this way because he had to be careful while collecting more energy and could not allow the hero to die along the way. All of this had been created because of the teachings of the standard. The hero then kicked the Demon King with full force, making him fall and suffer deeply. The hero reflected that when the tower became monotonous, all they had to do was kill the Demon King, and soon a new swirling portal in a new tower would appear. It was basically a hunting ground designed only for heroes. The hero enjoyed this and wondered if his companions agreed. His companions began thanking the Demon King for everything he had done, because they had gained many levels thanks to him, and even considered him a father figure for heroes. The Demon King could not understand how those heroes saw him as a father, since his tower had been designed to crush them and end their lives. But the hero believed the Demon King had been tough this time because many heroes had died. This only made that hero more famous, so he did not care. The hero then decided to finish the Demon King for good, while the Demon King refused to let a mere hero make him laugh. He could not accept such humiliation and wanted to know what use the Demon King's standard had if it led to this end. He believed he could not die in such a meaningless way, so he shouted that he was the Demon King. His energy began to spread violently in all directions, while he lost his head in fury. He swore the hero would pay for insulting him. The hero did not want anyone touching the Demon King's head because he wanted the horns for himself, and a purple light started to flow from the Demon King's body. The hero did not understand, and even while sacrificing the last drop of his life, the Demon King offered it. The hero did not want the Demon King to do that, but the purple energy grew stronger, and the hero screamed as the Demon King released a powerful force into the air. Many flaming purple skulls flew past the warriors. The Demon King realized the standard had been wrong, and if he had known that the heroes were using the standard to trick him, he would never have followed it. He wished he had another chance to give the standard as food for the orcs, and then his life finally ended. In the darkness, someone called Berzadeus, and the Demon King awoke, terrified. He had been reborn but felt extremely confused. Everyone stared at him while he wondered if he was alive. A small man called him again. His name was Berzadeus, and the small man wanted him to come forward. He quickly climbed the steps, and Deus, looking around, struggled to believe where he was. A white-haired man called him and wanted to know why a genius like him was distracted on his graduation day. This man was the president. Deus noticed he was wearing the red badge given to all students who completed the Demon King Academy. It was the symbol of the Demon King. He realized he had returned 15 years into the past, right to his graduation ceremony. All graduates were called to the podium. Deus had no idea why he had returned to the past, but he saw this as an opportunity. It was time for the oath of the graduating class, who would become the next Demon Kings. The master of ceremonies called Deus, the class speaker, to read on behalf of the group. The 6 rules of the Demon King standard were displayed before him. Deus had seen them so many times he was sick of them, able to recite every syllable perfectly. These were the principles he had dedicated his entire life to. He also believed that the Demon King standard had been what led him to his death, the same useless doctrine that had turned him into a mere toy in the hands of heroes. With all those people gathered around him, he questioned whether he truly had to read it again, whether he really had to swear in front of everyone that he would follow it for the rest of his life. He grew furious and rejected the idea completely. The master of ceremonies called Deus again and asked him to recite the Grand Demon King standard, but Deus declared in front of everyone that he refused. All the students became confused. He shouted with anger that he could not swear on that nonsense, and warned that following the standard was the most idiotic thing anyone could do. Deus put no effort into hiding his feelings. He made sure everyone heard him say that the Demon King standard was complete trash. Everyone stared with their mouths open at such statements, and chaos immediately erupted. Some people's glasses cracked. Others had their jaws locked open in shock. The shouting grew louder, because such an atrocity had come from one of the best students in the academy, and now he had become the greatest lunatic of the century. Outraged, the Archduke slammed his hand on the table. His name was Arcane Blairymph, and he announced that Deus could very well be executed for daring to insult the Demon King standard. However, considering his previously exemplary conduct and exceptional talent, they would give him one last chance. He could withdraw his statement and apologize to the entire Demon Kingdom. If he refused, his assigned mission would be Arin. Everyone was shocked because Arin was a dimension where Demon Kings were sent to die. It was basically a death sentence. Many could not understand why someone who had just committed such a crime in front of everyone was being given a chance. Some believed Deus deserved death for insulting the standards of the Demon King, which was considered extremely terrible and disrespectful, and a simple apology did not seem enough. Blairymph believed that Deus fully understood what Arin meant. Deus calmly told Blairymph to send him there, making it clear that he would prove the Demon King standard was garbage. Seeing this, Blairymph understood that Deus was someone who no longer had any hope left. He announced that from that moment on, Deus's deployment site would be Arin, where he would not receive any of the usual privileges given to high-level demon kings, and no demon would accompany him. A magical rune appeared beneath him. Until the assignment was completed, he was forbidden from returning to the Demon Kingdom. Deus was then teleported instantly to the location and fell like a meteorite with his hands bound. He knew something like this might happen after causing such trouble, yet he was truly being sent back there. He had returned to the place where the heroes had killed him. Even before his regression, he had personally chosen Arin, believing that the strongest, including himself, should conquer the greatest difficulties. But in the end, that arrogance had cost him his life, as many heroes had exploited the Demon King standard. He fell into a snowy region known as the Urgest Mountains in the northern continent. He did not want things to happen the same way they had before, and this time, he was determined to explore. He decided to use the standards of the heroes instead. The scene then shifted to another man shaving his beard and adjusting his clothes. This man was the top student of the Demon Academy, and his name was Gordon Dyrek. If the Demon King Academy trained Demon Kings, the Demon Academy trained the demons who served them. According to the rules of the Demon Kingdom, the strongest demon would serve the strongest Demon King. A newly graduated demon who placed second approached him, saying Gordon was lucky because he would serve Lord Deus. Another demon who ranked third stood nearby, disappointed for losing the opportunity. Gordon believed that all Demon Kings were extraordinary individuals, though he said this mostly to impress his classmates. Deep down, he believed none of them were as great as Lord Deus. Deus came from the lineage of demonic dragons, making him a once-in-a-millennium prodigy. prodigy who would be remembered forever in demon history. Gordon felt blessed to graduate in the same year as him, believing that with Deus, he could conquer any dimension. He even imagined statues of them together one day. He dreamed of having his name written in the history books, but then he heard Deus saying that everything was wrong. He was shocked. Hearing from Deus himself that the Demon King standard was trash was what caused his glasses to crack from sheer disbelief. The scene then shifted to Gordon in the Urgist Mountains because he was required to serve the Supreme Demon King above him according to the rules. He felt sick and confused about what was happening, while Deus was also puzzled. He had been told no demon would accompany him, yet they had sent one anyway. Gordon stared at him in shock. Deus extended his hand, saying it was good to see him. Gordon, standing beside his luggage, only wanted to understand why Deus had done something like that. Deus grew confused as Gordon, in complete despair, spoke about the standards and could not understand why Deus had said such things in front of everyone, and of all places, in Arin. He believed he was going to die. Deus wanted Gordon to calm down, but this only made Gordon angrier. Seeing him on the verge of collapse, Deus questioned if this was really the same Gordon he remembered. Before his regression, Gordon had been confident and composed, but now he acted almost bipolar, telling Deus that the situation would be difficult, but the two of them together could succeed, and that without Arin, he would not have felt motivated. Deus found it somewhat understandable because everything was different now, but he feared that if he mentioned his regression, Gordon would think he was speaking nonsense. Gordon was a strange man who suddenly began panting heavily and began apologizing for his shameful display. Since they had already reached this point, he said he would simply fulfill his duty. Deus saw no problem with that. According to the Demon King standard, the first rule was to build a tower that could not be hidden or placed in an extremely hostile environment, and only heroes should be able to find it. Gordon believed the place was far too dangerous and surrounded by mountains, making it difficult for humans to find or approach. He insisted they should leave, but the problem was that Deus did not agree. He said he would build his tower right there and planted the tower seed. When placed into the ground, it fed on the blood of a demon king and made the tower grow. Gordon grew extremely angry when he saw that Deus was going completely against the standards, and even the pride of being a demon king seemed like something Deus was throwing away. Deus fully understood the disgust that Gordon felt, because for a demon, it was difficult to deny a belief carved deeply into their bones. Unless one died or experienced something as drastic as death, the individual could not reject it, and Deus had been the same way once. He cut his own hand and let his blood drip onto the seed, wanting Gordon to listen carefully, as he insisted again that the Demon King standards were worthless, especially in Arin. The ground began to shake while Gordon watched in silence. The seed grew larger and larger, and suddenly a strong red energy filled the area. Deus continued and explained to Gordon that Arin was full of heroes, truly many of them. He never forgot that fact. The tower began identifying its owner, declaring Deus as part of the Black Flame race and of the demonic dragon tribe. The tower emerged from the ground like a plant. Deus believed that this was exactly why demon kings kept dying there, because the humans had realized, after destroying countless towers, that the tower had a specific mechanism, and they used the demon king standards against them. In that land, the demon king standards no longer worked and should instead be called the hero standards. Gordon was terrified by what he was hearing and wanted to understand what it all meant. Soon the tower was complete, tall and imposing. Gordon, with wide eyes, could not believe that Deus had successfully summoned the tower there. Deus called him inside, and they entered together. They stood on the first floor. Gordon expected a normal tower to have a complex structure or be filled with monsters, but there was nothing. It was a tower with no advantages, something designed for a demon king with no privileges. They went to the 5th floor, but it was also completely empty. Every floor was the same. Gordon believed that since Deus had already built the tower, they could not undo it, but at least they should follow Rule 2 of the standards. The demon king must kidnap a prince or princess, preferably one close to inheriting the throne, since those individuals generated stronger demonic energy. Gordon asked permission to offer advice, and Deus listened. Gordon explained that the nearest kingdom to the Urgist Mountains was the kingdom of Korzen. He recommended kidnapping the princess with the highest succession ranking to absorb the kingdom's anger and sadness and grow quickly. He fully expected Deus to refuse. Instead, Deus told him they would do exactly that, shocking him. Deus added that he already had a princess in mind. Gordon said he would help, but Deus believed Gordon should stay behind and guard the tower, since the Demon King's home could not be left empty. This made Gordon excited because he thought Deus had regained his senses and once again believed himself to be the most powerful Demon King, so whatever happened during their graduation must have been a temporary breakdown, and things were finally returning to normal. Gordon, now curious, asked which princess Deus planned to take. Deus stood near the window and explained that she lived in the kingdom farthest from the tower, in the southernmost nation of the continent. He was heading to the kingdom of Hilderin. The scene shifted to him, crouched outside the window of a princess with long blonde hair, the smallest and least noticeable among her sisters. She was the 13th princess, and he silently observed her. He stated that he had come to take her, and Gordon far away became furious because this choice went completely against the standards. The princess asked who he was, and he simply explained that he was the demon king who had come to kidnap her. She then wanted to know whether he truly believed he could face her. Deus did not understand what she meant. He wondered if she thought demon kings were a joke, but he made it clear that he was capable precisely because he was a demon king. The princess accepted this calmly and raised her hands, showing she was willing to go with him, which only confused him even more. He thought she was far too calm and wondered if she was planning something. She explained that she had always believed something like this might eventually happen. Deus clarified that if she expected him to lower his guard, she should abandon that thought immediately. He was slightly desperate and refused to let himself be tricked. The princess insisted she was not planning anything, because she could not possibly prepare a trap without knowing the demon king would come that exact day. He realized that she had a point, but still felt uncomfortable. The princess asked if they could leave right away. The scene then shifted to Deus carrying her inside the tower. Gordon saw him return safely. Deus asked Gordon to place her in the corner of the 4th floor. Gordon did not understand why she was not going to a prison cell. Deus explained that the princess had shown no resistance at all, so he was willing to show her a certain degree of mercy. Gordon accepted this, though he had something important to tell the Demon King. The scene shifted to the 4th floor. The princess noticed that the floor was cold and hard. She realized she had truly been kidnapped. There was nothing there, not even pillows or blankets. No servants, no beautiful gardens. Nothing resembled her kingdom, but she still thought it was not unbearable. Meanwhile, Gordon explained to the Demon King that he had received an invitation from the Tower of Beasts. He said it was supposed to be a welcome party for a new Demon King, but Deus doubted that very much. He believed it was more likely a pathetic attempt to play a prank on him for being a newcomer. Deus knows very well that Demon Kings are fundamentally too proud to join forces with anyone. However, an unprecedented situation made the Demon Kings go against their own pride and work together. He had ignored them before because he believed they were weak-minded, but this time he felt that he should at least try to have some light exchanges with them. In this moment, the scene shifts to the Beast Tower, where the Beast Demon King introduces himself. His name is Draxon, and he explains that he has ruled that place for 70 years. He also mentions that he heard that Deus mocked the traditional way, but when he looks directly at Deus, he thinks Deus looks rather boring. Deus immediately wants to know if Draxon is there to pick a fight, and he warns that the Beast Demon King should say clearly what he wants. Draxon realizes that Deus knows nothing, and explains that Blairymph had told him to keep watch for the moment when Deus arrived. At that moment, Deus remembers the noisy old vampire. Draxon believes that if Deus dares to speak to Blairymph in such a tone, then it means he has plenty of courage. So Draxon throws a giant piece of meat he was eating onto the floor. He wants Deus to lick it, saying that only then he would forgive his rudeness. Deus immediately asks the Beast Demon King if he truly does not know the reason he is there. Draxon believes it is because Deus mocked the demon orthodoxy, but Deus informs him that according to that orthodoxy, demon kings are forbidden from killing one another. Even so, he makes it clear that he will not follow such rules, and he releases a brutal aura that surprises even Draxon. Draxon then explains that Blairymph told him to confirm whether Deus would kidnap a real princess, and if Deus did not report it within 1 month, he would lose his authority. But Deus simply turns his back on him and states that he already kidnapped a princess, and that she actually matches his taste. The scene then moves to Deus's tower. Gordon believes that Deus demonstrated the majesty of a demon king in an excellent way, but Deus thinks it was nothing special. For now, he is certain that Draxon cannot do anything else, but he also believes they should be prepared. He orders Gordon to check the princess situation and to learn how to make use of the princess. At this point, Deus starts searching for a solution, because he knows he is in a problematic situation. If that is the attitude of the other demon kings, things will get uncomfortable for him. The consequences of mocking the orthodox path are greater than he expected, but even if he had another chance, he would make the same choice. He prefers to die rather than bow his head to trash. He does not want to repeat past mistakes, and this is his opportunity to rebuild his base from zero. Since he kidnapped a princess from the lowest classification, he would receive only a few hundred demon energy points, but this is the safest method. He looks at the panel. He then sees that he has 13,000 points and becomes extremely shocked, unable to understand the reason. Suddenly, the system warns that he has received a video recording from the Beast Tower, so he quickly opens the video. In it, Draxon is sending congratulations, saying that although their first meeting was not ideal, he has a gift for Deus, because what Deus achieved in Arin was not easy. Draxon is very impressed and wants to know if mocking the orthodox method was just a facade. Deus becomes visibly alarmed and feels that something is wrong. At that moment, Gordon approaches his demon king and warns that they have a problem because the fourth floor is completely different. Deus decides to go check it himself and sees the entire place altered. The law status says naturalization in progress, and the princess notices his presence, showing great excitement. Deus sees that this princess has created an ecosystem inside a magic tower. This is a feat only someone who masters the 4 elements can accomplish. He clearly entered the castle of the 13th princess, and he realizes that only the continent's single spirit practitioner could do such a thing. He therefore concludes that she is not the 13th princess. The princess explains that he confused her with Elena, and Deus is deeply shocked, unable to believe it. She confirms that she is Ernan Hilderan, the first princess of the Hilderan kingdom. Meanwhile, in that kingdom, they had already announced that the first princess had been kidnapped by a demon king, and the king becomes completely furious. He orders the strongest heroes of the entire royal army to gather immediately. He is ready to split the foolish demon king in half and rescue his princess. The scene returns to Ernan, who explains why she asked if he was capable of handling her. She says she heard that she is considered a genius of elemental magic and that she is full of mana. Deus finds this bizarre because he had not detected it, and he wants to understand how foolish he had been. Ernan explains that she is able to hide her mana with a ring, saying that this is an inheritance passed down within the royal family. Now she wants to know if he intends to send her back. Obviously, Deus did not expect this to happen, and he knows he would be mocked if he returned this princess. No kingdom fears a coward, and this would make it harder to collect demon energy, so he believes he must endure it. Suddenly, the panel warns that anger is being directed at him, and that his demon energy points have reached 19,000. In the end, he believes that they must have chosen him, so he declares to Ernan that nothing changes just because she is not the 13th princess, because she is still his hostage. The scene then shifts back to the Hilderan kingdom. There, the king orders them to kill the demon king, whom he considers extremely foolish, and to bring his daughter back. But his people explain that they still do not know the reason why the demon king did such a thing. They intend to send their patrols, but believe they should wait a little. The king does not care at all. He only wants them to hurry and bring back his kidnapped princess, because from his point of view, his subordinates are doing nothing. Then one of them explains that something strange is going on, and the king wants to know what it is. The subordinate explains that the bold demon king recently kidnapped the prince of another nation. The demon king, known for his boldness, had attracted the fury of many, and he eventually ended up killed by heroes. Despite that example, another whirlwind appeared to kidnap their princess, and this was what they found strange. Everyone started thinking, and the king became furious because he believed everything was happening again. Then a subordinate arrived and informed His Majesty that they found traces of teleportation magic heading north, and the destination was possibly the Urgist Mountains. The king was surprised. The scene then shifts to the Urgist Mountains, where Gordon warned Deus that the Hilderan royal army would soon arrive. He wanted to know if the demon king did not think it was too much for him to deal with. Deus simply smiled and showed that everything was fine. He believed that the Hilderan kingdom could not reach him, explaining that the Urgist Mountains were at the northernmost tip of the continent, while the Hilderan kingdom was far in the south. Because of this, he did not think all the nations located between those places would simply allow the army to pass through. Deus thought they would be forced to hire a hero guild. The scene then moves back to the king of Hilderan, who saw that they had no choice and ordered his subordinates to contact a hero guild. The scene changes to a hero guild where they were informed that the Hilderan princess had been kidnapped. They wanted to know which insane demon king dared to do such a thing, but they became shocked when they learned that the destination was Urgist. It was known as a place filled with infernal monsters, and many heroes did not want to die for nothing, so they believed the Hilderan king would suffer greatly because of this. Deus also believed that the hero guild would not accept the job, because those people only cared about money and would not want to go to such a dangerous place. This was also the reason why he had built his base there. Gordon was surprised that the demon king had considered that. Although Deus did not follow rules well, Gordon found him very experienced regarding Arin, as if he had lived there before. The scene then shifts to the king, who was almost having a heart attack from so much anger, because not a single hero wanted to take the job. He no longer believed those people deserved to be called heroes. In the end, they explained to the king that although there were heroes in Arin, they cared more about profits, which made them more demanding. The scene moves to Deus, who looked at his panel and believed that it would take a long time until a suitable group was formed, and it would also take some time for them to reach his location. Despite that, the demon energy he had was not enough to deal with an entire army of heroes. Deus was familiar with this fear, so he called Gordon and ordered him to contact Draxon because he intended to sell demon energy. But Gordon was completely shocked by what he heard, because demon energy was the dream currency that allowed a whirlwind to transcend their species' limits and unlock tower resources like bringing monsters or exchanging it for human money. It was an unimaginable madness. Deus believed that Draxon would pay a large amount for that demon energy, and since Deus could not stop the heroes with the demon energy he had, there was something he could do with human money. The scene then moves to Holton's workplace near the fortress city of the Urgist Mountains, where a hooded man approached two guards, who immediately wanted to know who he was. The hooded man did not hide that he was a mercenary. The guards wanted to know what kind of insane mercenary would go alone into the Urgist Mountains and thought he was suspicious, but the mercenary simply handed a small coin to one of the guards, and so he passed easily. Now the guards started arguing because the one who received nothing wanted the other to split the coin, giving half to each. The mercenary was actually Deus in disguise. He thought he could not explore that city alone at first, so he decided he would look for a guide. The scene shifts to the headquarters of the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild, where a member asked their captain whether they should head out soon. Their captain believed they were fine where they were, sitting comfortably while the soldiers took care of the monsters, and they only received the battle rewards. He did not imagine anything better than that. However, one of the members reported that a new demon king had built a tower in the Urgist Mountains, but their captain believed the information was false because demon kings always built towers in places where heroes could reach them easily. But another member revealed that this demon king had even kidnapped the princess of Hilderin. The captain had never heard of a demon king going to the other side of the continent just to kidnap a princess. They also heard that the Hero Guild had refused the job after hearing where the mission would take place. The Scarlet Hawk captain believed that a princess was a precious heir, so he assumed it was all just a show, a trick to squeeze more money out of the situation. Everyone becomes crazy when money is involved, so the members agreed with their captain and started laughing while drinking peacefully. Then Deus appeared behind the captain, and he did not like what he heard. The captain was shocked and fell to the ground, wanting to know who that mysterious man was. Deus believed that group was well known, so he ordered them to leave only one person behind while the rest should go away. The mercenaries became furious and said Deus had infiltrated the wrong place, claiming they would make sure he would not leave alive. But Deus instantly knocked all of them down at once, as if he were a boomerang hitting all those men. Only a giant man with a hammer remained, and he tried to strike the demon king. Deus held the hammer blow as if it were nothing, and the brass temp refrigerator was extremely shocked by what it saw. That group was full of mercenaries, and soon more appeared ready to shoot at the demon king, who made the giant fly and crash through several tables. The captain panicked because he believed they were facing a monster. Chaos erupted inside that place, and the people outside heard the terrible commotion, immediately understanding that a serious fight was happening inside. After Deus softened up every person in that place, the entire location was completely destroyed, and only the captain remained. Deus did not want him to stay frightened, and all the captain needed to do was answer his questions to be spared. The captain was extremely cowardly, and of course he was willing to do anything to save his own skin. Without any ceremony, Deus wanted to know where the slave market was, and then the scene changes to the Scarlet Hawk captain leading the Demon King and showing him where the slaves were kept. But the place only had human slaves, and the captain did not understand whether that displeased the Demon King or not. Deus wanted to know if there were not rarer beings, and the mercenary captain admitted that there were, so he led the Demon King to that other section. The captain was smiling the entire time, which Deus found strange considering he had seen what happened to his subordinates, so Deus realized humans really only cared about money, the same way demons only cared about demon energy, so it made no difference to them. They went down the steps, and Deus remembered when he had told Gordon that he planned to buy slaves, but slaves from other worlds that humans had captured. He believed that an elf, known for integrity, would be better. He could use an elf to spy, and also to create chaos among the heroes. Meanwhile, in the Hilderin Kingdom, a hero named Hillen Cargill appeared and showed the king he was willing to rescue the princess and bring back the Demon King's head in the name of justice. Seeing the elf wearing the mask, Deus believed his plan would work well, because elves were known for being innocent. Then the old man responsible for the slave transactions wanted to know what Deus was looking for among the slaves. Deus immediately pointed at the elf and said he wanted to buy him, and he also said the captain would pay for him. The captain became extremely shocked and could not understand anything. Deus wanted to know if the captain intended to refuse, but the captain valued his life too much and made it very clear he would pay without complaining. The Demon King had something he wanted to confirm, so he asked both men to leave the room. The seller explained that the biggest problem was that the elf could go insane, but Deus believed everything would be fine even if that happened, because the captain would be the one paying. The captain was obviously suffering because of this. Then Deus stayed alone with the elf. Deus saw that the elf was a noble being who had been reduced to a miserable slave. The elf sensed Deus's energy and wanted to know if he was a demon, wondering what business a demon could possibly have with an elf. Deus said that he was trying to give him a chance, an opportunity to take revenge against humans. The elf thought it was tempting, but just as he did not trust humans, he also did not trust demons. Deus explained that he was different, and if the elf stayed loyal to him for 50 years, he would guarantee the elf's freedom and safety. For elves, 50 years was not that long, and it was better than being humiliated by humans. The elf then threw it in Deus's face that he was a demon, and demons had been trying to destroy the world tree that elves served, along with the world sustained by it. Because of that, he really could not trust a demon. He also found it strange that a demon needed help from an elf. Deus felt that the elf had struck exactly where it hurt. Still, Deus wanted to negotiate, so he swore upon the standards of the great Demon King that he would keep his word and would not touch the world tree. Then he released the elf, and the elf immediately began to see things differently, because the Demon King's standards for demons were like the world tree for elves. Deus declared that in exchange, he wanted the elf to swear upon the world tree that he would be loyal to him for the next 50 years. The elf smiled and thought Deus was strange, but if he was going that far, then he was willing to believe him. He stood up and revealed that his name was Granada, from the Bordeaux tribe. He explained that he would swear his oath once he met the Demon King who had sent Deus. But Deus revealed that he was actually the Demon King himself, and this surprised Granada. He then burst into laughter because he could not believe a Demon King would be there. As far as Granada knew, Demon Kings became weaker the farther they were from their towers, so no Demon King would leave his tower just to buy a slave. If Deus really was a Demon King, then Granada was willing to swear loyalty for the next 100 years. The scene changes to the 5th floor of Deus's tower, where he informed the elf that the 100-year agreement was indeed something he himself had made. Granada was shocked to know it was true. Deus really was a Demon King. He started thinking that this might have been a scam, because Deus had never said the tower was so empty. There was literally nothing on the 3rd floor, and the 4th floor only had nature. Granada could not understand how a tower had no monsters at all, so Granada thought Deus would not last even a year, because the heroes would tear him in half, and he could not work in a place like that. But Deus showed his aura and wanted to know if the elf had forgotten the agreement. Granada was shocked by the pressure of the demon power, and now recognized that Deus was truly a Demon King. He believed the tower might be sloppy, but the monsters of the Urgist Mountains had not tried to attack, probably because they did not want to risk their lives provoking him. Now Granada believed he could truly take revenge by joining a Demon King, so he kneeled and swore by the great name of the World Tree that his loyalty belonged to Deus for the next 100 years. Since the Demon King had personally come to get him, Granada believed that Deus would give him an important role, and he would get his revenge as part of that evil plan. However, right after seeing the oath, Deus told the elf to prepare meat for him, and Granada had no idea what had just happened. The scene switches to him chopping vegetables, still shocked because he truly thought he would have a very important role in the Demon King's plan. Beside him was Ernan, who saw him cooking and wanted to help. She asked if she could make a vegetable bread, and Granada became even more confused. Then the scene moves to the 5th floor of Deus's tower, where they were in the dining room. Granada informed the Demon King that the woman was from the Hilderan Kingdom, and Deus confirmed this for the elf, telling him her name. Granada was in shock because he could not understand why he had kidnapped a crowned princess, since the tower had nothing inside it, and he wanted to understand what exactly Deus, the Demon King, had planned to stop the heroes who would arrive there to rescue her. Deus explained that this exact moment was the reason he had bought the elf, but he wanted everyone to sit down and eat first. Deus praised the elf because he thought the elf cooked very well, and Ernan heard the compliment and warned them that she had helped too. The elf became more confused, and the scene shifted to the 4th floor, where Granada believed the Demon King would want him to return with the heroes through that place. But for Deus, if the heroes reached that floor, it would already be the end of the line for them. So Deus wanted the elf to disturb the human world in his place. Granada quickly understood that the Demon King wanted him to become a spy, and Deus confirmed it, but he first wanted to test the elf's abilities. Granada was unsure if he should try to defeat a demon king inside the demon king's own tower, but Deus said the elf was exaggerating and explained that he would use only one hand and would not use his demonic energy, and if Granada won, he would reduce the duration of their contract by 50 years. Granada immediately became anxious and wanted the demon king to keep his word because he would fight with everything he had. The elf's speed was very high, but Deus defended himself easily using only one hand. Deus was surprised that even though Granada had been imprisoned for so long, he still had perfect movements, and he wanted to know whether the elf had absorbed the mana on the 4th floor or improved his physical abilities. But Granada clarified that no ordinary elf could do that, and he believed Deus had chosen the wrong opponent in the wrong place. Granada used his ability and wrapped plants around the Demon King's feet, creating an opening because the elf wanted to reduce those 50 years of loyalty no matter what. Deus thought that was fine, but he hoped the elf had not forgotten who his opponent was, and his energy changed quickly as he explained that Granada should not worry because he would not use his demonic energy and would control his strength, so he would not kill the elf. Granada widened his eyes and wanted Deus to wait a moment. Then the scene moved to Horton's work, in the headquarters of the Scarlet Hawk's mercenaries, where the captain had a huge smile and saw money as if he were Mr. Krabs, because he felt it was a great honor to see Deus again. The Demon King explained to the captain that he wanted to hire him for a year. The captain was willing and wanted to know what the budget was, while the members became upset because even though the captain had a lot of money, he was flattering someone who had beaten all of them. Deus then showed the bag of coins and made it clear that this was the deposit he was offering. The mercenaries immediately changed their minds and told the captain they would follow him for the rest of their lives. The captain obviously found it strange how quickly they changed their minds. Deus also wanted the captain to include Granada in the team, because the elf would transmit Deus's orders from then on, and the captain simply accepted it, while the other members did not want that, because they were basically accepting a stranger into their group. Granada had also received a facial harmonization from Deus, and the other members were still injured and stared at him. Soon they all began to cry and seemed to understand each other because they had all been beaten badly and had a shared experience. The Demon King thought they looked mediocre, but they were mercenaries who operated in Ergest, and it was impossible to find experienced mercenaries like them anywhere else. Deus believed that the only hero who would respond to the call of the Hilderan kingdom at that time of year was Hillen Cargill, who had defeated the Demon King of Audacity. So Deus summoned the Scarlet Hawk's mercenaries and explained that their first mission was to investigate Hillen Cargill, the hero hired by Hilderan. Then the scene changed again to Deus's tower, because since he had left the matter of the hero to Granada, this was the moment for Deus to become stronger. Demon energy points could be used to improve the tower or improve the Demon King himself, and since Deus had sold all his points, the only way he could become stronger was through the Spirit Flower, which was a crystal formed by a human that sprouted after absorbing mana from nature and gave an immense increase of power once consumed. In the Urgis Mountains, with the relentless mana storms and their overwhelming strength, nature was almost untouched by humanity, and because of that, Spirit Flowers had spent many years naturally absorbing mana from nature, making their energy even more refined. They were truly Spirit Flower treasures. For demons, they were not as effective as demonic energy, but there was no other way. Deus was willing to search for some Spirit Flowers, and Gordon was surprised to hear that, because the risk was too great without previous preparations. It was like searching for a needle in the desert, and monsters there were no different from beasts, and would certainly attack as soon as they saw an opening. But the Demon King believed he could deal with those monsters easily, though he recognized that the hardest part would be finding the Spirit Flowers. Gordon thought it would be easier if Deus had an excellent mana detector, and at that moment someone knocked on the door, making both of them think it was strange. It was Ernan, who wanted to know if they were busy, and they were clearly surprised by her presence there, but she could do what Deus wanted. Deus then followed her to the place she wanted him to go. She was very excited and explained that she had been a bit bored lately, and she reminded the Demon King that he should keep his promise that she could decorate the 4th floor however she wanted, but he clarified that this would only happen if she found the Spirit Flowers. Even so, she was already decorating according to her own taste, so he had no idea how far she would go if she actually got the Spirit Flowers. He also thought that the idea of decorating a Demon King's tower was already madness. Ernan realized she could not get out of the tower and was only trying to check again. Then Deus began carrying her and asked her to hold on tight, but she became scared because she was not prepared. They began to fly, and she closed her eyes out of fear, but when she opened them, she became extremely surprised. She had not realized anything before because it had been dark on the day she was kidnapped, but the world was very vast, and her days were always the same, with magical training and studying government, and she never left that routine. She thought she would do that until the day of her death. She wanted to know if Deus had stopped to think about that, because she was the only person who had ever flown over the Ergist Mountains, but he did not care about that. He simply wanted the princess to do what they had agreed, but Ernan interrupted him and asked him to call her by her name, since they would see each other frequently, and she believed it would be better that way. In the end, Deus felt he had allowed Ernan too much freedom, and he warned her that she was forgetting her place. He then asked if she wanted to be moved to the underground prison, and she immediately apologized. Without wasting time, he wanted her to use her spirits to search for the spirit flowers, and her spirits began the search. Deus believed that her spirits would not find anything so easily, but he still believed they would be faster than him or Gordon. Suddenly, however, the spirits returned and showed the exact location of one of the spirit flowers, which was surrounded by various monsters. Deus explained to the princess that monsters were descendants of demons who had left the demon kingdom, and if they still had demon honor, they should obey the command of the demon king. He then gave an order to those monsters, telling them not to touch the spirit flower and to leave the area. The monsters refused, making it very clear that they did not listen to the words of a demon, that they disliked demons, and that they were willing to kill him. Deus began to laugh and saw that Gordon had been right, so he would make the beasts understand how foolish they were, although it would already be too late because he intended to reduce them all to ashes. While the beasts charged at him to kill him and eat his flesh, Deus used his ability and caused a massive explosion that wiped out many of them at once. The remaining monsters then decided they should attack the weakest one first, and they obviously believed the weakest was the princess. But Deus saw what they were planning and quickly unleashed his power on them. Ernan was extremely shocked because orcs were very strong, but they could not even get close to the two of them. Now she was witnessing the true power of a demon king. After Deus had transformed the place into a cemetery, they approached the spirit flower, and Ernan was amazed at how pure the mana was. Deus explained that if her spirits found another flower, she could keep this one, and she became very excited. Unfortunately, they did not find a second cluster of flowers, and they returned. Ernan tried until she became completely exhausted, and then the scene shifted to Deus's tower, where the demon king felt that at first he had thought kidnapping Ernan had been a mistake, but she was proving to be quite useful. Then Gordon informed Deus that he had received a message from Granada, and Deus thought it was sooner than expected. Gordon explained that including the hero Hillen Cargill, along with the other 32 heroes, they had departed from the capital of Hilderan and were on their way to Ergest. They would follow the classic hero route, forming a group and becoming stronger by completing villagers' quests, growing throughout their journey. Gordon prepared some plans for the hero's journey, hoping the Demon King would read them carefully, but Deus said that all of them were discarded, leaving Gordon shocked. Deus explained that they would not send any monsters or interruptions during the hero's journey, because incomplete interruptions only made heroes stronger. Instead, he wanted Gordon to tell Granada that the elf should join the hero's journey with the mercenaries and help them build confidence. Gordon saw that once again, the Demon King was not following the standard, and he also believed that they could not stop the heroes with the tower in its current state. But Deus wanted him not to worry, because he intended to reinforce the tower with a dwarf, and Gordon was completely shocked because the Demon King would be bringing an elf and a dwarf into the tower. If others found out that they kept inferior races inside their tower, they would become a laughingstock. Deus simply showed his strength again, and Gordon immediately fell silent. Deus clarified that he was not saying they would defeat the heroes with only a single dwarf. He explained that he needed the magical tools of the dwarves, and he wanted Gordon to think about something for 1 second. As heroes grew accustomed to a Demon King's patterns, they opened the door of the first floor expecting weak monsters. But if dozens of cannons were waiting for them instead, the situation would be completely different. Gordon was surprised by that idea, because the heroes would never be prepared for something like that, though he still thought it was far outside the standards. Then he realized the Demon King was no longer sitting on the throne, leaving him in a state of shock. The scene then shifted to Wolfner, the subterranean dwarven city, where there was a dwarf who was the best blacksmith there. His name was Loger Friedrich, and it was only a matter of time before he would be kidnapped by the Demon King. The scene shifts to Wolfner, the city of the dwarves. Our hero says that before returning, he had fought several dwarves, and that it was his first time in the city. He then enters a tavern and questions a man, saying he had come to look at a weapon, but didn't know a good place to buy one. The dwarf replies that despite being human, he knew how to negotiate. The dwarf explains that inside the city there is a huge pit. If one enters the elevator, their identity will be checked and they will be taken to the desired floor. It was a two-step method to identify intruders. He then begins to descend through the pit. He was supposed to go to the very last floor, the deepest one, and it was there that he would find the best forge. We see a dwarf hammering away at his forge. His name was Loger Friedrich. Our protagonist thinks that his demonstration gives the impression that Mana itself was dancing, and he was genuinely considering kidnapping him on the spot. But as soon as the hammer struck, flames flew toward him, repelling him, and he thinks that perhaps the dwarf sensed his demonic energy. He recognizes the dwarf, but before he can say anything, Loger charges at him with his hammer, and our protagonist says that he was definitely a hero. The dwarf confirms it, introducing himself and saying that he was a blacksmith with the powers of the heroes, and that a demon like him would never leave this place alive. Deus says that he talks too much for someone so weak, and he grabs the dwarf by the neck, saying that he was not a demon, but a demon king. Shortly after, some guards arrive, asking what those noises were, and they see the forge completely destroyed. The dwarves sound the alarm, saying that Loger had disappeared and blocking all the exits. Deus says that he will kill Loger if he makes a sound. The dwarf asks if he is here because of the princess, and Deus explains that he heard the dwarves dig their own underground passages in case of emergencies, and orders him to show it. Loger doesn't believe him, and is certain that he is after the princess. He thinks that he had been hiding to avoid the demon kings, and had cried because of that. Deus notices that he doesn't seem willing to talk and says that maybe he will kidnap the princess and let him go. He explains that the story would be that the greedy dwarf hero traded his own life for the princess's, and asks what the others would think. This enrages the dwarf. Loger thinks that everyone knows he is weak, and if such a rumor spread, everyone would believe it. Deus asks whether he should take the princess, or if he prefers to tell him about the passage. Deus says that if he helps him, he will help him in return, swearing by the Demon King's guide. The dwarf realizes that the guide is the belief of all Demon Kings, and in this case, he politely says that they will go to the underground passage. Meanwhile, at Loger's forge, all the guards are there, and the princess as well, wondering where he could have gone while making her weapon. She was Princess Louise Werft of the dwarves. One of the guards says that he might have been kidnapped. The princess tells him to shut up and asks how a hero could have been kidnapped. In any case, she orders them to bring the kidnapper immediately, saying that if they don't find him, she herself will kill all of them. We return to Deus and Loger in the underground passage. Deus hates the view he's getting and asks if he really has to keep staring at his butt. The dwarf tells him to wait and says they are almost there. Soon, they leave the city, and Loger says that this was the end of his part of the deal, and now Deus should fulfill his. But Deus asks what nonsense he is talking about. Loger says that he swore an oath and asks if he has no honor. Deus smiles and says that he couldn't care less about the guide. It meant nothing to him, and asks what he should do with him. Loger begs for his life, saying that he could work for him, even build weapons if he wanted. Deus asks if a hero really wanted to work for a demon king, but the dwarf says it doesn't matter, and that he can use him as he likes. Deus says that if that's the case, he will spare him. The dwarf smiles to himself, thinking that he was an idiot and that he wouldn't obey him. But when he realizes it, he is already in Deus's tower, pale and unable to believe it. His subordinate is shocked, seeing that it's not just a dwarf, but a dwarf hero. Even the elf is shocked that he brought a dwarf along through a connection. The dwarf asks why he is here and says that he had said he would let him go. Deus comments that he never said that, and explains that he knocked him out and brought him here because he didn't know what he was planning. The dwarf then starts laughing like a madman, and Deus asks if this is happiness at becoming his subordinate. The dwarf cries as he says yes, that's exactly it. Deus gives him his first mission, to install several cannons on the first floor. Meanwhile, at the hero journey preparation outpost of Erzest, the elf says that a rumor is circulating among the heroes, that the new demon king can use black flames, so they are using fire-resistant equipment. There are also rumors that the reason the demon king is not sending demonic beasts is because he is afraid. Deus smiles and says that they won't be able to gain anything from the hero journey. In the end, they will lose interest, and the heroes will be unable to grow. He adds that it is a battle against time, and that the elf can continue monitoring them. The elf reflects on the Demon King, saying that by not sending monsters, he must understand human nature, and that he is certainly weakening the heroes. Deus tells Loger that he is restricted from using mana stones. He doesn't care if he remodels the first floor, as long as he obeys that single rule. Loger says that a trap without mana stones wouldn't work against heroes, but Deus doesn't care, and orders him to do it. Deus explains that the hero's ability to sense energy is exceptional, and if he creates traps using mana stones, they will discover them before they can be activated. He says that he is sure Loger is the best blacksmith, and if he makes a mistake, he should bring someone else here, pointing an energy sphere at him. The dwarf says that, thinking it over, he might be able to try. The The dwarf explains that he once invented a tool that can hide mana traces, but it takes 3 years to make, and he has one in his workshop. Deus doesn't fall for it, asking if that's his best excuse to escape, but the dwarf says he is serious. In any case, Deus decides to trust him and puts something around the dwarf's neck. Deus explains that it is a magical tool that can separate the head from the body, and also a magical tool that prevents people from seeing his face. If he removes it, it will be considered an escape attempt. Berza then went to several kingdoms to gather supplies and mana-related materials, and it took about a month to gather everything. After that, Deus returned to Wolfnur, and we see the princess furious, asking why they still haven't found the dwarf and how long she is supposed to remain patient. A dwarf explains that they are investigating further, but that it is likely he has already left. The princess says that this is obvious. She gives them a 2-week deadline. If they don't find him by then, they will die. She shouts, ordering them to fill in all the tunnels the blacksmiths created. After everyone leaves, the princess says that this was supposed to be her weapon. She looks crazed, saying that he must be alive and that he cannot die until he completes her weapon. Then Loger appears from one of the tunnels, drawing the princess's attention, but he is wearing an interference mask that prevents him from being recognized. The princess says that this is one of Loger's secret tunnels, and that only he knew about it, and asks if it is really him. The dwarf starts stuttering, not knowing what to say, and the princess becomes furious, asking if he really hid from her because he didn't want to make her weapon. He says that she is mistaken, but she doesn't believe him and says she feels insulted. From now on, he is her slave and will make her weapons for the rest of his life, but before that, she will punish him. But before he could be beaten, a massive explosion occurred, demanding to know who was there. Deus orders him to grab the equipment and leave, and the princess asks why he was helping that despicable dwarf. Deus replies that he was the master of the dwarf she was humiliating. Even so, she doesn't care and charges at him, throwing several punches, but he easily deflects them all. He tries to kick her, but she effortlessly grabs his leg and lands a solid punch, sending him flying. Deus quickly rushes in and grabs her head, and the two begin a frantic fight inside the workshop. Although Louise is a princess of the dwarf kingdom and not a heroine, she is extremely strong. Before his return, she was one of the strongest, far stronger than she is now. He could kill her before she grows any further, but he would have to use all his strength and demonic energy, and he is not as strong as before. If he used his powers, the soldiers could capture him, as he would be recognized as the Demon King. Deus then asks if Loger has taken everything, and he replies that he is dismantling it. It was equipment called the Mana Phantom, capable of hiding mana traces. Deus orders him to finish within 1 minute or he will die. The princess quickly attacks again, and Deus says that if things get tight, he will stay behind. Deus reflects that he doesn't know how long he can hold out without his true strength and energy. The two clash blows, and the princess declares that she won't let him leave alive and that she will burn Loger's legs so he can never escape again. Deus simply asks her to give up, saying he is taking his blacksmith and the equipment. Loger manages to dismantle the equipment, and Luis asks if he came just for that. Deus notices an opening and kicks her. He then uses his subspace pocket, causing the two of them to vanish magically. Shortly after, the guards arrive, and the princess asks if they only came after she was about to die. She orders them to pursue him through the tunnel immediately, but the tunnel suddenly explodes. She asks if he blocked it, and whether he truly didn't want to make her weapon. Even so, she finds it interesting, and decides that she herself will search for him. Even if she has to scour the entire continent, she will make him regret what he did today. Meanwhile, in Deus's territory, the equipment is almost fully installed. His subordinate asks what it is, and Deus explains that it is a magical tool meant to stop heroes. The dwarf says that the installation is complete and that he will activate it immediately. Deus threatens him, saying it had better be worth the trouble of bringing it here, frightening the dwarf. When it activates, a large blue light appears at the center of the device. The system announces that the tower has recognized the equipment, that synchronization requires 10,000 points, and asks whether to synchronize. Deus is shocked, wondering if it really had such a function. He agrees, deciding to see for himself, and his points are consumed, dropping from 11,182 to 1,182. The system announces that the Mana Phantom has recognized him as its master, and that its energy source has been converted from mana to demonic energy. The dwarf is delighted, saying he didn't know it would fuse with the tower, and that this is the discovery of the century. Deus then asks her to use some spells, and she immediately casts all the spells she has, combining all elements. As she uses her power, Deus's servant panics. Deus thinks that a spell of that caliber should have been detected, even from outside, yet he can see nothing and cannot sense even the slightest presence. He is shocked. He thinks that by manipulating the tower this way, he can do even more, and he uses magic to make the tower disappear, then reappear. He wonders if he can truly hide the tower like that. It also drains his demonic energy, but he smiles, saying it will certainly be useful in the near future. Loger becomes excited and says he wants to dismantle the device and examine the tower, begging to study it. Deus tells him that if the trap wipes out the heroes on the first floor, he can do whatever he wants. Loger jumps for joy. Deus then says he has a proposal for the princess, ordering her to confront the heroes who reach the fourth floor. She says she is a princess, but he replies that she is also a genius and doesn't want to return to the palace. He thinks it might be irrational to ask this, as it would mean betraying her own species, but she is already wondering which spell to use, surprising him. Deus says she only needs to confuse them, reveal herself as an enemy, and if things go well, he will give her whatever she wants. She agrees, but on one condition, that she be introduced as a subordinate, not as a princess. He accepts, though confused. She excitedly says she might even use her appearance to seduce them. Meanwhile, on the throne, Deus thinks the preparations are nearly complete. He will reduce the number of heroes with the cannons on the first floor, and on the fourth floor he will use the princess as bait, but even that won't be enough, since there are more than 200 heroes. He holds the plant he obtained earlier, and thinks that corrupted spirit flowers are extremely effective against demons, so he will gather more. The scene shifts to him outside the tower with the princess. He says it is her third attempt and that perhaps she was lucky the first time when a frost orc appears before him. Deus says he has grown tired of them, but the orc bows, saying he is the chief of the Blue Ice tribe, greeting the Demon King and asking that the tribe be accepted as part of him, part of his species. The chief says they are ancestors, demons who betrayed the demonic kingdom, and asks for the honor of serving the Demon King. Deus doesn't believe him, saying that in the end they just want to become stronger by becoming the Demon King's race, and that they are more compatible with demonic energy than with spirit flowers. The chief says there is no reason to hide it and produces the flowers, 3 spirit flowers. Deus realizes that this is why he couldn't find any, and says the orcs truly know how to negotiate, and that the chief is abnormally intelligent. The chief replies that they value wisdom more than strength in order to survive. Deus asks whether they came to him to become stronger, or because they were too weak, and the orc doesn't answer. Deus smiles, saying he likes him and accepts only him, Krutu, the chief. He orders him to dominate the snowfields and improve his tribe, to await further orders, and promises to reward him with something beyond strength. We see Krutu's status, now showing a new Demon King race trait, and all the orcs kneel, pledging their loyalty. We see the Urgist Mountains, the tower at maximum output. Outside, the Pule Orc Legion. On the first floor of the tower, the cannons and Loger. On the fourth floor, the princess. Deus says it is time for the heroes to show themselves, and that he will take revenge for what happened in his past life. Meanwhile, on the elf side, someone says they have arrived and that the Urgist Mountains can even be seen from here. At the preparation station, a banquet is being held. The hero thanks them for the feast, and the fortress master says it was nothing and that he is happy to help. He says that Hillen should give a speech and shouts that Hillen has something to say, drawing everyone's attention. Hillen says that the long-awaited hero's journey has reached its final stretch. The Demon King may have been frightened by the march of heroes who answered the call of justice, and perhaps that is why he did not send monsters. Still, they must not lower their guard, as they are ready. Finally, it is the day they will make that Demon King pay for daring to kidnap the princess. He shouts that it is for justice, and everyone cheers. The elf thinks that, just as the Demon King expected, the number of heroes did not increase. Hillen's popularity brought the hero's journey this far. He secured support and calmed the nerves of mercenaries who tried to desert, bringing them back. He recalls that the last time he saw the tower, it was empty, and wonders whether he should attack the heroes now, since he might lose otherwise. He quickly dismisses the thought, saying he must be crazy. If it works, he will be free sooner than expected. He thinks he will get some fresh air and report back. Granada says that after settling in, they will climb the mountains tomorrow. Deus asks him not to make contact anymore, and says there are things he needs to know. He tells him to look carefully around and not lower his guard, and asks that when they open the tower, he stay away from it, but he disconnects before explaining what he meant. Hillen then arrives, asking what he is doing there and offering him a drink, fruit wine. Hillen says he has been thinking a lot. The elf asks whether they will really be able to subjugate the Demon King. Hillen replies that, honestly, he doesn't know for sure. Even if they follow him and trust him, subjugating a Demon King is always difficult. The elf asks if he didn't kill the Demon King of Lust and absorb her powers, and that compared to that, this should be easy. Hillen says that, thinking about it, no one actually knows how he killed her, and asks him to recount the heroic deed. He looked very serious, silent, but soon smiled, saying that it was only possible because he had his companions with him, companions like Granada, who were always on the front lines. He added that if they combined their strength, he was certain they would win. Then he said that the fortress master wanted to hear Granada's heroic tales. Hillen looked solemn as he kissed a ring, saying that he had truly gathered the strength of his friends, asking Granada to look after him this time. The next day, everyone was shouting that it was the hero's march. They were in the Urgest Gorge, and members of the group began mocking the situation, saying they had been afraid to come, but in the end it was nothing special. The weather was even clear. Everyone said they had heard there were even disaster-class monsters, wondering if they were hibernating, or perhaps even afraid of Hillen. Suddenly, purple slime fell on one of their heads, and they noticed there were ghouls in the gorge, bigger than they had imagined. Hillen ordered everyone to form up for battle. Soon, one of the soldiers reported that a frozen giant had appeared, and Hillen ordered an immediate retreat. He told them to leave the gorge while he dealt with the giant, commenting that it wouldn't be a problem. He rushed straight toward the giant, smiling as he remarked that a frozen giant was no stronger than the demon king of lust. When the giant swung a punch at him, Hillen ran up its arm, but the giant slammed its hand into the wall. Hillen pressed on regardless, unleashing several simultaneous slashes on the giant, and ordered everyone to run now. It was the perfect moment. As everyone fled, the giant collapsed to the ground, and Hillen urged them to hurry. Once they had retreated, everyone was shocked again by the sheer size of the ghouls. This place was truly insane. Humans shouldn't even be able to reach it. Even so, casualties were few thanks to Hillen. Everyone talked about the tale of the demon king of lust, and wondered if he could really be compared to a demon king. Even Granada thought that if it were Hillen, perhaps he really could defeat the demon king. Meanwhile, the Pule orcs were watching everything from afar. Hillen said it was no time to rest and that he could feel the demon king's energy. Subordinates were nearby. The one who greeted them was the tribal chief. Hillen was confident, saying he would handle them, but the elf warned that something felt off. He remembered Deus's warning and was shocked. The chief declared that none of them would reach the tower alive, and a massive tremor shook the area. Granada wondered how he could even see it. It was an avalanche, rushing down toward the heroes. Once again, Deus welcomed the foolish heroes, saying that this time he would be the hunter. Deus thought about how he had warned Granada about 3 things. The first was the snow. We returned to the heroes, many of whom were swept away by the avalanche. Hillen said they would set up camp and search for the heroes who had been carried off. The second warning was not to lower their guard at night. Giants appeared, and they realized that the orcs were guiding the giants toward them, so they prepared for battle. Deus smiled, thinking that an avalanche by day and a horde of monsters by night, this pattern would repeat endlessly, and eventually they would grow exhausted. 3 days after entering the Urgest mountain range, their numbers had dropped from 501 heroes to 256. Upon reaching the peak, they wondered why there was nothing there, not even the tower. Hillen said it was common sense that the tower wouldn't be placed where heroes could easily see it. Other heroes told Hillen they were giving up. One man said the journey was a failure and that, sorry as he was, their lives mattered more. Hillen was furious at this. 6 days after entering the mountain range, they finally reached the Demon King's tower. Out of 256 heroes, only 52 remained. As they opened the gate, they declared they would finish him off, saying there were only weaklings on the first floor anyway. Deus thought about the third warning, when they opened the tower, to stay away from the gate. Several cannons were aimed at them, leaving them in shock. When they fired, a massive blue beam engulfed them all. From 52 heroes, only 1 remained. Deus was surprised that even this wasn't enough to bring down Hillen, and he grew furious, wondering what kind of demon king this was. Nothing about what was happening was normal. Then Granada appeared, saying he had barely managed to dodge the attack. Even so, Hillen said they would move on to the next floor. He declared that he was the hero who killed the demon king of lust and absorbed her power, and that a new demon king was nothing to him. Granada was more than enough support. On the second floor, they found it completely empty. The third floor was empty as well. Hillen said the place should have monsters, but there was nothing. The elf said that since there was nothing on the second and third floors, the princess must be on the 4th floor. When they reached the 4th floor, Hillen was shocked by the completely different biome. He wondered how there could be nothing on the 2nd and 3rd floors, yet a forest here, and questioned whether this really was a demon king's tower. The princess soon appeared, dressed in black, declaring that she was one of the 4 heavenly kings, the dark spiritualist, and that she would be their opponent. Neither of them could believe what they were seeing. Hillen asked if she was the princess and why she was dressed like that. She replied that she was not the princess and unleashed her power of darkness. Hillen said that this was the highest rank spiritual magic, something only Princess Ernan could use, and that it could not be used if she were under control. Hillen reflected on everything: the orcs, the avalanche, the ambushes, the hidden tower, the mana cannons on the 1st floor, the empty 2nd and 3rd floors. and now the princess. He truly understood nothing. Enraged, Hillen said he didn't understand anything, but that was fine. He would destroy everything anyway. At that moment, Deus appeared behind him, asking if he really thought he could. A massive explosion erupted, and Deus said that he could finally see his face. Hillen Cargill, the hero. Hillen replied that he had finally shown himself. He had taken barely any damage and thought he would need more power, thinking about Granada. He quickly appeared behind Granada, saying they would combine their strength, and then began draining the elf's power. Granada realized his strength was being siphoned away, and Hillen reminded him that he had said earlier that as long as he stayed by his side, there would be no problem. Hillen explained that it was an artifact called the Elf Devourer. It converts an elf's vitality into mana. The drawback is that once activated, the elf dies in a short time. He said that Granada agreed to this for the greater good, stepping on his face as he spoke. Deus admired how vile and despicable he was. He asked if removing the ring would make him weak again. Hillen told him to try if he could. Not even the Demon King of Lust had managed it. Then the Demon King called out to Gordon, who severed the hand wearing the ring. Hillen panicked, asking how he had done it without him even sensing his presence. Gordon replied that he was being rude to a human. Hillen quickly retreated, thinking that even while using an artifact, he had been taken down by nothing more than a high-level demon. But then Deus appeared behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder and telling him he wasn't going anywhere. Hillen thought he had to dodge, but he was enveloped by a black aura, a dragon of demonic energy. He wondered who this Demon King really was. Deus said it was time for him to take a beating, and a massive explosion shook the tower, visible even from outside. While Hillen lay fallen and the smoke dissipated, Deus remarked that it was impressive he was still alive. He ordered his hands bound and for him to be thrown into prison, and for the humans who remained outside the tower to be detained as well. The elf was completely dried out and on the verge of death. Deus said he had done a good job and gave him one of the flowers. Shortly afterward, he fully recovered, shocked by how fast the recovery was. He even wondered whether Deus had really used a flower on him. Deus said that Loger had done a good job and granted him permission to dismantle the tower if he wished, which made him celebrate. He then said that was all, telling everyone to rest and remain on their respective floors. Granada commented that after all that, Deus didn't seem affected, but the princess still felt that something was wrong, that he looked extremely tired. Meanwhile, on the throne, Deus collapsed from exhaustion, saying that a demon king could not show weakness. He wondered if this was what it meant to be one of the 10 stars. It is explained that the 10 stars are the 10 strongest heroes on the continent. Even though Hillen was one of them, he was among the weakest. Deus thought that, to be honest, he had barely used his energy points to strengthen himself yet, and he would never have won if Hillen had been in perfect condition. His plan had exhausted him, irritated him, and pushed him into panic. Because of that, he had shown an opening and, as a result, had been defeated by a supreme blow. He thought that, for now, he had managed this without relying on the Demon King's guide. He had truly changed fate. He was certain he could change the future and take his revenge. Elsewhere, a man raged, asking whether the heroes had given up. Others said that investors were demanding accountability. A hero replied that they had not failed yet and that there was still hope. Hillen and the others had not given up and simply needed time. News of the new Demon King spread rapidly across the continent, and the king was furious, saying that Hillen had only talked and done nothing. The dwarf woman of the dwarf kingdom said she didn't care about humans at all and wanted Loger brought back. Hillen's story became distorted, and the world fell into deep despair. Because of this, Deus's points increased exponentially. On the other side, at the Heroes Guild headquarters, the hero Wharton was summoned. Someone asked if he wasn't lying, and he said it was all true. Others in the guild said the matter was serious, and that they should be cautious since they didn't know the Demon King's identity. They noted that Hillen was one of the 10 stars and couldn't have been defeated so easily. If there was no news of him within 10 days, the heroes would launch a large-scale attack, 4,128 heroes, to eliminate the Demon King at once. In the underground prison of Deus, he noticed that Hillen had awakened and was impressed by the speed of his recovery. Hillen said that Deus must want something from him, since he had kept him alive until now. Deus ordered him to become his vassal, leaving Hillen stunned. Had he really heard that right? Deus explained that the hero's journey had cost him a great deal of money. Food for everyone, security expenses, lodging, annuities, armor and weapons, and even consumables. Normally, these costs were covered by investments from merchant groups and nobles. If the Demon King were defeated, the heroes' lives would change completely. However, if they failed, they would be buried in debt. This time, The investment had been focused entirely on a single person, the hero team's captain, Hillen Cargill. Hillen reflected that even if he escaped, he would be branded a failed hero and forced to live in hiding for the rest of his life. He asked how Deus knew all this, and Granada said he had told him everything. Hillen became angry, asking if he had betrayed him. The elf shot back that Hillen had no right to say that after what he had done. Deus said the reason Hillen failed was because there had never been anyone like him. But since he did not follow the guide, the heroes would eventually adapt and find ways to clear the tower. However, if one of the strongest heroes interfered with their plans, would they really succeed? Deus then explained the Armani Sphere, a magical tool used to monitor subordinates. Once it entered the body, it would instantly attach to the brain. If the subject became hostile, he would know and could simply explode the brain. If the sphere failed, it would be considered resistance and the subject would be killed anyway. There were plenty of heroes available. Hillen argued that a hero like him was resistant to mind control, and that the moment it entered his body, it would disappear. The elf added that a hero could remove their mental control defenses at will. The two of them smiled as they said this, and Hillen hurled insults at the elf. Hillen declared that he would rather waste the magical tool than ever submit to Deus. Deus told him to shut up and swallow it. Granada asked what he would do if Hillen chose death instead, but Deus told him not to worry, saying that human greed, especially someone who treated his companions as expendable for money, would never choose self-sacrifice. It was shown that Hillen had indeed been affected by the curse, becoming a vassal of the Demon King. Meanwhile, on the throne, Gordon asked that even if everything had gone well, how Deus planned to repay a debt of 100,000 gold coins. His activities would be severely restricted, and the coins he had exchanged amounted to only 2,000, barely the budget of a small nation. How did he plan to gather more money? Deus replied that it was time to attend the annual meeting of the Demon Kings, the Union of Towers. He thought that he had never joined before because demon kings gathering together was disgusting, but those who had lived in Arin for a long time must be overflowing with gold coins and treasures. Gordon asked if he was planning to convert points into money again. Deus said he would have said the same thing in the past, but after dealing with the heroes, he understood. If he had followed the guide, he would not have been able to stop them. He had received an invitation to the Union of Towers. Smiling, he said it was time to swindle the Demon Kings. Meanwhile, in the Tower of Lies, on the 13th floor in the Demon King's chambers, Deus remarked that even though he wasn't late, everyone was already there, and asked if they had matters to discuss without him. We see the other Demon Kings, Draxon Doldoff, King of Beasts, a werewolf, Reyna Soldine, Demon King of Winter, an ice demon, Ugar Belva, Demon King of Indestructibility, a titan, and a cheerful man named Jason Kochmund, the King of Lies, whose race was unknown. Deus asked if they weren't ashamed of forming an alliance. Ugar became furious, calling Deus a fool and asking who he thought he was to interfere in their affairs and what he knew about Arin. Deus thought that a simple provocation made it easy to see what someone was thinking. Ugar threatened that if Deus wanted to die, he only had to say so. Deus told him to try if he could. Then Jason clapped his hands, plunging the hall into silence. He commented that the meeting was meant to discuss cooperation and asked them not to waste his time. Deus realized that Jason had erased the killing intent of 2 demon kings in an instant, and it wasn't magic. How had he done that? Was it his own power or the tower's? The 2 demon kings sat back down. If it was his power, it might be similar to Mana Phantom, but in any case, Deus couldn't draw conclusions without evidence. Jason then began the meeting, telling everyone to feel free to speak. Draxon said that if no one else would, he would start. He asked where Hillen Cargill was, looking at Deus. Deus was about to answer when the scene abruptly shifted to several girls asking the same question about Hillen. They were attendants of the Beast Demon King, and another dressed in red belonging to the Demon King of Lies. Gordon replied that he didn't know. Hillen was probably wandering somewhere in the Urgist mountain range. They were in the reception hall, and one of them told him to stop lying, saying he should have seen it from afar. Gordon reflected that it was just as Deus had told him. If the others asked about Hillen, he was to say he knew nothing. Since he would be acting as a spy, it was better to maintain secrecy. And soon he starts thinking that the Demon King was actually right about what he was doing, but he shouts, saying that Deus was just an arrogant brat, and that if he ever looked away, he would get into trouble, and he didn't understand why he felt so good like that. And everyone else agreed with him, wondering why they were all like that, and Gordon realized that he needed emotional support. And Ugal asks if he really expected them to believe that, and Deus says yes. Ugal became furious, asking if he really hadn't found his tower, which was supposed to be at the peak, and Jason says that they were still targeting his tower, and even so he left it undefended and came here. And Jason says that, just as he learned at the academy, a demon king who loses his tower faces a terrible fate, considering that he was the best in the class. But he says not to worry, since he was protecting it in his own way, and anyway, Jason says he wouldn't interfere anymore. And Draxon asked whether Arkeen would allow that, but Deus doesn't care much. Still, Deus thinks that even if he lied, they wouldn't be able to verify it. Even if it made them suspicious of him, it was better than being found out. And he wouldn't forget his objective, since it was to earn 100,000 gold. And as time passes, the kings converse normally during the meeting, and even among the demon kings, Jason was at the top of the hierarchy. He listened in to gather information about which kings had low amounts of demonic energy points, and Reyna stares at him for a while, and he doesn't understand anything. The scene shifts to the balcony on the 13th floor of the tower, and she says that ever since she heard about him, she wanted to talk to him alone. She says she agrees with some of the points he had presented, and he wonders whether Reyna had said that in his past life. And she says that she doesn't hate the system like he does, she just lives by it, but she believes kings need to be flexible, especially in Arin. That's why she wanted to see him. He asks what she thinks of him, and she says he's quite handsome, more than she expected, but she hands him a transmitter, telling him to call her whenever he wants advice. As long as he doesn't insult the Demon King's system in front of her, she would join the game, and she finally found someone to talk to as well. She says that regarding the Demon King of Lies, she can't read him at all, but he's still better than the other two. And Deus thinks he still couldn't trust her, but it was an unexpected gain. Then he returns to the tower, and the princess made some cookies for them, asking Loger to take some. She explains that she made them when Deus bought them for her, and then baked them with the help of the elements. She asks him to try them, and Loger is happy, thanking her for it, and no matter if they were bad, he would be kind to her. But as soon as he tastes them, he feels like he's floating, an incredible flavor that moves mana, and he had never eaten anything like it before. She asks how it tastes, and he says he can't even explain it. She says she made them with some spiritual flowers in the dough, and Loger asks why she would give something so precious to him. She says it's a gift, so they can be close in the future, and that they would be seeing each other for a while anyway. She asks if Granada would like it, and he says she definitely would. Then she asks what Deus would think. Returning to the Tower of Lies, our villain asks if it's already over, and Jason says yes, then immediately asks if he wants some tea and if he'd like to talk. Jason says he knows very well what he needs, the human's money, and Deus turns serious, asking what he means by that, and wondering where the information had leaked from.